the American League is the most wide open it's been since like pre-Astros dynasty. Like I think that this is the most competitive American League, and that doesn't mean that
like
every team is going to have 85 wins, but like I think that this is the most competitive and like the closest, the least amount of variance. I guess like sans Chicago between like the top and the bottom.
You mean most improved in all of baseball? The Chicago White Sox, dude.
That might be true.
They're going to be like 200% improved and still lose 100 games.
Right. That might be true.
Hey, I've got an insanely funny hot take from my White Sox fan friend because I asked him for some because I was like, we're going to talk about every team, blah, blah, blah. He's got a take that I'm fully going to back. Scott, this is like when we did our infamous, like, what would be an insanely dumb trade, and we said Sixto Sanchez for, who was it? Somebody on the Sox that was also a terrible bust.
Juan Moncada or
no, Drew. Like someone like Sixto Sanchez caliber. Was it Tim Anderson in like 2023 when he fell off a cliff? You know what, Scott? Ready? I said let's do an insanely wild prediction. Tim Anderson for Sixto Sanchez. The hot take that I'm officially going to claim. This is my first big one of the year. I'm going to say Brooks Baldwin puts up 3 F4 for the White Sox.
Love it.
Now before you get. Let me explain.
No, I love it, dude.
He's going to play shortstop, and they're bad enough that he's going to play enough that I think that he will.
Is Montgomery going to play?
Do you know what he hit in AAA last year?
I genuinely do not know.
All right, I'm going to read you his triple slash from AAA.
Yeah, please do.
So he played 130 games at AAA, okay? 18 homers, 8 steals. Not bad, right? 29% strikeout rate, 12% walk rate. Yeah.
I'll kind of take that.
Acceptable.
Walk, right?
Right. I'll take what I won't take is a 214, 329, 381 triple slash.
Yeah. 381 is where you lose me for sure.
Then again, in his like 120 plate appearances last year in the major leagues. I was reading his slash wrong. I was reading his on base as his average and his slugging as his on base. And his
that
OPS
would have been a little bit better, yes.
I was like 870 OPS over 120 sample size. I
don't think Colson comes up until they can at least manipulate so that he'd be Rookie of the Year eligible in 2026, or they're going to find a way to
when they add the 2 spots.
Yeah. Also, I'll be honest. Personally, I think he's ticketed for third base.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he moves off
really big guy.
I still believe in him, though. I think he's good.
I believe in the talent as well. I just think long-term he profiles more as a third baseman for me. And I think that I don't know, dude. We're going to go to their roster resource. We're going to start out with the White Sox. I drove by their stadium yesterday, and they were testing the lights. They were testing the lights at the rate, and I did text my buddy. I said, it's getting me fired up for a season of White Sox baseball. I can tell you that. How do we feel about this is their projected outfield with Benintendi having a fractured wrist. Travis Jankowski, Lou Bob, Mike Tauchman, left to right.
I love you, Sock man.
That's tough, man. I mean, if he can stay on the field, goes without saying, but like Robert could have a pretty decent year.
You're still buying stock in Lou Bob?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He didn't play last year, and when he did play, he was
Michael
on the worst
Taylor
team ever. Like I absolutely still am buying stock.
I'd play Michael A. Taylor over Jankowski.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Louis.
I thought you were about to say Lou.
No.
I'm gonna have to remove you from the studio.
Jankowski's a platoon, no? Like, isn't he?
He's playing because Benintendi fractured his wrist. So
I'm just saying, like, I would imagine that Jankowski is a.
They also have Joey Gallo.
I remember his splits correctly. Is a pretty heavy platoon.
So I think he'd be platooning in left with Michael Taylor then.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. Travis Jankowski quietly was like not bad in 2023. I remember he was one of those like Rangers.
He was super solid was he there for 2 years? One of the years
he was, yeah.
Yeah, one of those seasons he was like a legitimate option, especially in I think the first half or maybe second. And one of the halves of the season I remember going into Texas, and he was hitting like leadoff for them.
Dude, he rocked
like
a 12%
OPS or something absurd.
He rocked a 12% walk rate and a 15% strikeout rate in 2023.
Yeah, dude, that's nasty.
That's lovely. Only slugged 330, but it doesn't matter when you're getting on base, man.
Yeah.
That is literally prototypical leadoff. That's what you want. He hit 260 as well. That's a leadoff hitter, man. One homer, 19 steals.
Yeah, he's fast too. Yeah.
That brings out the boomer in me when I see a line like that. You know, 1 homer, 19 steals. I'm like, that's a leadoff hitter. I don't know, man. My thing with Luis Robert is just we're at a point now where I'm going to toss out 2020, but so we're going into our 5th full season, and I know he's having a good spring, but I just the idea of him being that superstar that he was in 2023, I think he can be a star, but I think he needs to get traded sooner rather than later because Chicago, he seems like a vibes guy, and they are rancid in that ballpark every day.
I don't disagree with any of that.
Travis Jankowski had a 138 WRC plus in the first half of 2023.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I think that I don't know. Like, I mean, we can argue like what his ceiling is. I'm not saying that I think he's going to be like the 8-WAR player that people thought he was going to be after 2022 or 3 or whatever year that was. But yeah, I mean, I still absolutely think he can be a 4.5 plus even like win player that can give you elite defense and power and be a top half of the lineup bat and center. Like that's incredibly valuable.
He still has 30-30.
Yeah, absolutely. If they give him the green light,
I don't think he lives up to. People were thinking he was going to be 40-40, but I don't think he has that. But I think he could definitely hit 30-30 one year.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got to be Baltimore or bust, right? Like if
I think Chicago should have traded him a year ago. I think it's ridiculous that he's still even on the roster. So.
But I think if you're the Orioles, like, and I get they have pitching injuries, but like as Cashman has said, Mike Elias hasn't made a comment on it, coward. But I'm sure if he were to make a comment on it, the pitching market is scarce. And so if you're the Orioles, it's like if our pitching is going to suck, like we might as well win every game 14-10. Like at that point, I'd rather just trade for Luis Robert. I don't know.
Who they got in center this year?
Cedric Mullins
still, yeah.
But Kerstad's at his heels. They've also got – I love Vance Honeycutt. This isn't a draft podcast, but like Vance Honeycutt, I'm very in on. They've got Enrique Bradfield Jr. It's another college outfielder they drafted. They just have like 3 or 4
Bradfield
guys.
Is not white enough to be an Orioles prospect.
Vance Honeycutt is. I can tell you that.
Yeah, Honeycutt definitely is. He fits the mold.
Did he go to a super racist high school? Sorry, editors. Then he'll fit the mold.
Yeah, do not look up who Gunnar Henderson's high school is named after. Don't do it.
Crazy.
I promise it's not fun.
Yeah. He went to I don't know. The Sox, I seriously though, my like favorite take is that I think that they're gonna win 20 more games than they won last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either.
I think they're gonna lose like 102 games or something.
I think my hot take might be I think they're losing less than 100.
That is a hot take.
That is a hot take.
Because I know they lost Crochet, but there's just so many guys that are going to be second.
I do like their starting rotation depth. Like I think they have a lot of guys who could be decent, and I have no idea if they're going to be.
They are going to have the worst bullpen in baseball, guys.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
I'll give anyone Scott. Actually, no, Scott. You're too plugged into the AL Central. Drew, if you can name 3 guys that are in the Sox bullpen, because I probably can because of proximity. I will be impressed. If you can name, actually, I'm going to pull it up on Fangraphs roster resource.
I might even only be able to.
They still have Enyel De Los Santos. I know they picked him up from the Yankees last year.
No. They currently have 5 guys listed on roster resource for projected bullpen as in the closer role. 5. Scott, you're saying you might not even know?
Now, I think I can do 2. I don't even think I can do 3.
Okay. Who do you got?
No. I want to see if I can get to 3 first.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
What a shit show that organization is, dude.
Yes.
So I just did my for Locked On, we just did our AL Central season preview where we bring on all 5 of the AL Central like hosts, and we just have like a roundtable discussion for 30, 40 minutes. And man, our White Sox host is, so this is his first full season for starters. He
getting in on the ground floor.
Right. He just took over, and that was my joke to him when he first got brought on, was like, oh, well, maybe when they're good again, like, you'll be able to say you literally started at the beginning of this shit. Like, you're, truly a day one.
Can't be accused of being a bandwagoner.
Right. His name's Todd, though, and he's such a great baseball mind, and it was really fun talking ball with him. It's just interesting, hearing his perspective as somebody who is probably the most plugged into that organization of anybody I know, maybe Laz, but it's one of those two, right? And it's funny hearing him talk about the White Sox and being like, oh, like, what are you looking forward to? And he's like, anybody under 30 playing, I guess. Anybody relatively young that's going to get at bat.
I do like the guys that got back from the Crochet trade. Yeah,
dude, Kyle Teal's was one of my favorite prospects in the draft. And I absolutely love him. I think that is a guy that also could be playing games for the White Sox way sooner than maybe, like, he was already kind of flying through the system in Boston. So, I really think he could be getting a decent amount of playing time in Chicago sooner rather than later. And I like him a lot, dude. I loved him in college. So we'll see. Just watching him in spring was honestly great.
Yeah. Seeing him hit a nuke off of Sasaki in that very first live BP was very fun.
It was sick.
It's funny we're talking about Sox catching. My buddy of mine's a big Sox fan. I kind of texted him like, hey, like, is there anyone you think that I should bring up or that I should maybe peek into real quick before we hop on here? And he was talking about it, he's really in on Kyle Teal, and it's pissing him off the fact that Corey Lee is slashing 438, 750 in spring. Like, Corey Lee is walk. He does not have a walk.
0 hit by pitches.
That's sustainable.
Well, dude, really? Rocking a 313 ISO and a 467 BABIP. Absolute money, dude.
We love it.
But so I don't know. The White Sox bullpen, as we have alluded to, the 5 guys that are projected to at least get some legitimate run as closer we've got Jordan Leisure, who I actually agree with. And it's like an interesting piece. I don't think he should be high leverage. I should be maybe a 6th inning guy. But I don't mind Jordan Leisure. They got Gus Varland, a guy named Frazier Ellard, who was an 8th round pick in 2021 out of Liberty University. We can leave that one in, editors. Okay, I will say this rando did have a 13 K9 at AAA last year in 40 innings. I'll take that back slightly. And he's a lefty.
I want the Savant. Oh, a lefty too? I'm buying stock, dude.
If you want Stuff Plus, Scott, 97 on the fastball.
Stuff Plus is fraudulent for lefties. I want like metrics.
He's got a 116 Stuff Plus on the slider though, which isn't bad. That's not terrible.
Plus should legitimately only be used for righties. It's completely faulty with any left-handed pitcher. Anyway, different complaints.
We'll get there. I'm sure. We'll talk about. Don't worry. There's plenty of lefties to discuss.
That's just mad. Scooball's changeup isn't like a 170.
It should be though.
It's every single lefty, dude. Like it's It's to be clear,
it's weird. It's well documented that I absolutely love pitchers with a filthy changeup. So, like, watching Scooble, it's like a child in a candy store for me. Every single start, it is just fantastic. It's part of why I acquired Reese Olson. I love Reese. I know it's not his main out pitch, but it's the other one, and I love it to death. Yeah, that was an outer fleece job by me. I'll put that on record.
No, it wasn't.
Everyone
got fleeced. Luke Weaver's too valuable, bro.
Yeah, Robert Suarez and Jake Cronenworth. Michigan legend. Michigan all-time saves leader, Jake Cronenworth.
Michigan,
the other two guys,
legend.
The other two guys projected to get saves are Justin Anderson, signed from Kansas City in November 2023, projected for a 4.4 ERA, but a 9.4 K9. 4.5 walks per 9, though. So,
not exactly.
And he's 33. And the other one, non-roster invitee Mike Clevenger.
Oh, great! Right, I did remember they were turning him into a closer.
I'll even go this far. The only White Sox All-Stars that kid out of Liberty. Book it now. Somebody write it down. That's their All-Star this year. I don't even know his name.
Dude, there is no way Major League Baseball.
Clevenger, no, the Liberty kid.
No, the lefty.
Okay. Frazier Ellard.
Yep. Frazier Ellard, All-Star 2025. Book it.
Okay. Can I give my take? It will be, dare I?
Dude, it's Frazier Ellard. You know the right answer.
It is, but if I were to go for a I'll take the Palatine Pounder. I'll take Mike Talkman off a hot couple months.
My goat.
Crazy name.
I love that guy.
Dude, Chicago suburbs legend Mike Talkman, dude. The Palatine Pounder. I know Baseball Reference is a little bit liberal with the nickname usage, but that one is real. That he has actually been called that before.
I've been seeing a lot of people say a lot of good stuff about Sean Burke from Spring.
He is, yeah. And Shane Smith is also projected to be a part of their bullpen. I think Shane Smith is really awesome. He was the Rule 5 pick out of Milwaukee. Anything to take away from that organization I'm a fan of. So love that pick by Chicago.
You're a fan of the organization? That's crazy.
A fan of taking away from the
Oh, no, you said of that organization I'm a fan of.
Taking away your – let's settle down here. I'll put you back in the waiting room. You know what? Let's just stick with the AL Central. We're starting with the Midwest because it is best. Scott's least favorite team in the division, I think, the Minnesota Twinkies, as he would probably refer to them as.
My thing with the Twins might be my favorite non-Tigers AL Central team.
Because they're fraudulent, that's why?
Yes. My point with the Twins every year, dude, is like, and I went on this rant at some point last year too, is like,
don't worry.
I don't have disdain for the Minnesota Twins because they're like, why would I? Like
they're your Cincinnati Reds. It doesn't matter how much hype.
They broke my heart and absolutely stabbed me with a knife in game 163 of 2009. Outside of that game, they have done nothing. Like, they are decent and get crushed in the first round every single time they make the playoffs, or they're awful. Like, there is no reason for, and like, I still don't like them. But like, the other three teams have at some point in my life given me like a prolonged period of time where I was like, oh yeah, like that's the enemy. Like it was one game when I was 11, and outside of that, like,
has every other team in your division done that to you?
Yeah.
Wow, I have it good.
Cleveland absolutely owned us. I mean, that's like the historic one, like,
right, of course,
where we didn't beat Cleveland for like 6 years or something, or win a series against Cleveland for like 6 years. So there, everybody, and then Ohio, Michigan, just in general, obviously nobody likes them. The White Sox, obviously, when like early 2000s, but
I was gonna say like 2006 probably.
Well, 06 was I didn't hate anybody in 06. But
no one.
I almost just got banned from the internet. That was really close. I had to put on like the the
microphones are out, Scott. Come on now. Professionalism.
Anyway, so but the White Sox also, like, I despised that, and we've talked about this before, Carson, but like, I had so much disdain for that, like, Moncada, Anderson, Jimenez era, like, White Sox team, because we were told that they were going to be so good for so long, and they were so annoying about it. we got in a fight with them too. We had a brawl with them at one point. Like there was a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Royals, I think, are probably my least favorite team in the AL Central. They are every single year of my life, no matter how good we are, how bad they are, they kick our ass. So
we're on the Twins. We're on the Twins.
Right?
Now, listen, I'll be honest with you.
Depends on how
they're the betting favorite. They're the betting favorite to win the AL Central,
which I think is crap. I really do.
No.
And I know
I
think
they're closer to the bottom than the top.
Ooh, that's a hot.
I think the Twins are going to finish
third.
in fourth. I think I would, if I had to order it, I would put Cleveland, then Detroit, then the Royals, then the Twins, then the White Sox.
Show me Scott, go ahead, or editor, show me Guardians record after Memorial Day. Boop. Like they were historically good for like 8 weeks, and then they were as good as my ball club the entire summer and fall. So
I don't think they're that good. I think they like managed to beat up on the bad teams in the AL somehow, and then like their bullpen is so good that they like are able to.
We'll get again. We got
games.
Minnesota Twins. We'll get to Cleveland. I have a lot of Cleveland opinions too. Minnesota is interesting because my opinion of the Minnesota Twins is that at full health, I genuinely think that is one of the best lineups in the American League. I still do. That is a disgusting top. Like you legitimately could have 9 guys with an above 100 WRC plus. Like that is how deep their lineup is top to bottom. I guess like if Brooks Lee is the everyday starter, maybe he doesn't do that in a rookie year, but like, you know what I mean? Like that's like one guy and he'll be decent. Like that's a very highly regarded prospect at one point. So like I really like their lineup, and the top end of the pitching is obviously still there, even though they've lost some pieces over the years. They have a guy that has the ability to be one of the best relief pitchers in baseball on top of that. Like, they have the pieces.
Two.
Insane.
Absolutely. Jax and Duran.
Right, Jax 100%. So, like, they have the roster. They have the pieces. The Twins just happened to build their entire team out of the most injury-prone players in baseball. And it's
their entire organization, because all their top prospects, too, are guys that are made of glass.
They legitimately had, I think, Brandon Warren, who hosts Locked On Twins, said in our preview show that they played like 22 games together with Correa, Buxton, and Royce. All were in the lineup for like 20-something games together last year. Like, that is obviously not going to cut it. And when, I mean, to your point, like when you throw in the fact that some of the young players also have reoccurring injuries every single year, like it's literally, I don't want to, it sounds super layman and like lowbrow to just be like, well, if they just stay healthy, but like, I'm not sure there's an organization in baseball that better epitomizes that than the Twins. Like if they do just stay healthy and they get that ceiling production from everybody, then they're going to be great. It's just a matter of A, can they stay healthy? And B, even the guys that, like, if Correa even does stay healthy, is he even that guy anymore? Like, we don't even know. Yeah. Like, we haven't even seen enough to know.
And we don't know if Royce Lewis's legs are even ever going to work again.
Right. Like, or if Byron Buxton can be an everyday center fielder, like that, basically DH.
He was a mid hitting DH.
Right.
Like, he can't DH. He has to be in the field.
He needs to go balls to the wall and play 80 games, and he'll be insanely good for those 80 games, but he's only going to play 80 games.
Right. So those are my, that's kind of like all I have to say about the Twins. Like I seriously think that roster can go toe to toe with especially with how the AL looks this year with a lot of teams, man. I still respect the hell out of the talent there. It's just,
and I like their rotation though.
Yeah, like, no, I agree. I just have zero faith that
Ryan and Ober are all like very good pitchers.
Yeah, I'm a big Joe Ryan guy.
I've got 2 names. I'm also a big Joe Ryan guy. I literally texted Drew about it today. I'm a big Joe Ryan guy. There's 2 names that I want everyone to keep on their radar about the Twins that I think could define the season a little bit. I'll go that high. The first one is David Festa. I think Chris Paddock he had a wonderful changeup. And I believe it was on Rates and Barrels. They were talking about how Chris Paddock is one of the premier examples of. He had a fantastic changeup, and I believe it was Rates and Barrels that talked about how there's a big emphasis with pitching on just because you're really, really good at something, it doesn't mean that you should constantly be tinkering with everything else. You also need to reinforce what you are very good at. And that's been the biggest issue that's held Chris Paddock back is the fact that he had the wonderful changeup, but it was developing a primary and maybe like a tertiary. He blew his arm out, and then he lost some of the ride and the shape of what his fastball was, which in turn damaged his changeup, which was his out pitch, and it's sort of a domino effect.
Flaherty dealt with that.
Yeah, great example of that as well.
That's why I don't mean to like derail you here. I'll let you get back to it. But like that's what Federer is so good at. Like when people talk about why he's, the best pitching coach in baseball, or at least one of, it is constantly because, when people work with him, he goes, why are we not utilizing and just like beating a dead horse with what you are the best at? Like that Absolutely. Is what makes you good. And so with Flaherty, like he completely lost the fastball over the years, the shape of his fastball over the years, but he still had the slider. Within 3 weeks of working with Federer and Lund, the guy who's all about the bio whatever of everything, Iowa product, by the way.
Hey.
And
Hawks.
Within like 3 weeks, they completely got his fastball shape back to what it was in 2019, and then he had the season he did last year. So like that, you bring that up, talking about him specifically, and like it's a great point because you can. There is a such thing as over tinkering, like with stuff like that, especially on the pitching side of things.
So I think Fest is a really good example of he's got 2 filthy pitches, learning a changeup. But I mean, I just Simeon Woods Richardson, it was really good for a couple months. Second half was brutal. So when you talk about what's going to define the Twins season, it's going to be, and honestly, it's a conversation you have about front offices all the time, which is whether it's a trade or whether it's money, is just admitting defeat and understanding that there is a bigger goal and there is a bigger mission at play. I'll point to the Tigers and the just not giving Javi Baez playing time. Like you have to have the balls to say, hey, it doesn't matter how much you're getting paid. It doesn't matter if you were, a big prospect acquired in a trade. If you're not cutting it, you're not cutting it. And so I think giving David Fessa the runway that he deserves, and not that Paddock and SWR aren't talented, but I think that he's one of those guys that defines the season. And the other guy is just plain fun. We talked about Brooks Lee. I want to talk about who I think should get the second base job, and that is Peyton Eales. For those of you that do not know who Peyton Eales is, Peyton Eales was a guy signed out of Indy ball and proceeded to absolutely demo minor league. So obviously you sign a guy out of Indy ball, you're going to start him out at low A, right? Well, in 34 games at low A, I'm looking this side because I got the stats here. He slashed 331, 448, 517. All right, we'll bring you up to high A. That's a big challenge. Typically, you start out your high school picks at high A. There's a significant increase in the talent of pitching. He actually improved his WRC plus, 275, 473, 425, 170 on a handful of games. Okay, we're going to skip you double A. Triple A for the second half of the year. How do you handle that? 299, 419, 500. Good for a 144 WRC plus. Ran a 13% walk rate, a 15% strikeout rate, had an ISO over 200. Oh, and during all of this, he ended up swiping 41 total bags across 3 levels. I love this dude. He's awesome. He's also 5'5". So he is just this tiny lefty that just somehow finds a way to hit laser line drives. And he's very much like a Charlie Hustle kind of baseball player. But when you talk about guys that can contribute for the Twins, and maybe be those unlikely contributors when guys have injuries, Peyton Eales is a guy I have kind of ticketed for that. Every projection system projects him to be at least like a league average contributor. And if he wins the job, Zips has him as a 2-WAR player. And I don't know. I'm super in on a guy like that. So those are two names I think to keep in mind.
Especially because their starting second baseman is another one of the guys who can't stay healthy in Julian.
That's correct. Because it should be Royce Lewis, right? Isn't that what they're doing? Because they're going to put Miranda at third. I believe that's the plan. The Ty France at first base.
I don't get it.
Rocco Baldelli.
What are they going to do with
everyday first baseman Ty France? I think the magic might be gone on Ty France. I don't know about that one.
I mean, the magic's probably been gone for about half a decade now.
It's not half a decade. It's been like 18 months, but he did have like that. He had like three years of a 115 WRC plus. He's a good ball player.
Yes, ending in like 2021. Let me look this up.
Maybe. Scott, we're sticking in the AL Central. We're going to the Tigers. I'm going reverse alphabetical. Parker Meadows is hurt, and I'm very sad about that. Is Wenzel Perez remotely the goods? Is he going to be in left or right field? How are they going to handle
2.5 and 22? That's fine.
Real quick, sorry, before you get into this, worth mentioning, listen to Locked On Tigers if you want to hear daily about this. That's Scott's paying gig for this. He graces us. He graces us with a lot more professionalism than we may have for this. But talk to me a little bit about how the Tigers are going to manage that outfield wise, just because the Meadows timeline concerns me a little, and I'm so in on him still. I don't care when he's healthy. I'm going to be all the way back in. But walk me through kind of the Band-Aid plan for the outfield.
Yeah, the injury's weird. It's like a nerve that is like they literally describe it. He described it as asleep. So there's nothing structurally wrong. It's literally just there's a nerve in his throwing shoulder that is just not active, and so he can't move his arm certain ways. And the doctors are literally like, once it wakes up, he will be completely fine with no repercussions. It's just asleep. And that he could wake up tomorrow or it could wake up in July. And no one knows. It's just kind of a completely weird, random thing. So really frustrating for sure. I still think he legitimately has the potential to be one of the most valuable players in the entire organization. Maybe like Sans Skubal or, if Green hits his stride this year. But that is a huge loss for sure. The other shitty part is Matt Vierling is missing opening day as well. So that is both of your center field options gone before even the third game of spring training. Wenzel Perez, I love when it was a great story last year. Don't want to rely on him in center field defensively. That sounds like an awful idea. B, he's a switch hitter that doesn't hit lefties at all. And that bothers me. Why even switch hit at that point? He's a switch hitter that still had to be platooned last season because he was terrible against lefties, not only at the major league level, but in AAA before getting called up too. It's not like it was just an adjustment thing. So I'm going to be real with you, especially after an update we got an hour ago that Parker is officially missing opening day. Right. I think there's a very real chance that non-roster invitee and former Angels bust Jahmai Jones is the starting center fielder.
Wow.
I love Jahmai Jones.
He has absolutely raked in spring training. He's a righty that specializes against lefties, Obviously, he hasn't hit very well in his career, but he hits lefties better than righties, and the Tigers kind of desperately need some righties that hit left-handed pitching. So he kind of two birds with one stone there, can play center field until Parker's ready, and then Parker gets the everyday job again. So, if we're talking just outfield, Green will be in left. He was fantastic there last year. Carpenter will either DH or play right, depending on the day. When Vierling's healthy, he'll be at third base and in right. Wenzel Perez will play the corners. Justin Henry Malloy will play the corners. He's looked great this spring. There's a lot of corner outfield depth, not a lot of center field outfield depth, and that is the problem they find themselves with here.
Do you think Carey's going to play against lefties this year at all? I'm interested.
Yeah, so honestly, I think it depends on this. The simplest way I can break it down is If Torkelson and Malloy both make the opening day roster, then Carey will not play against lefties because Malloy will play in right, Torkelson will DH, and Keith will play first. So there's just no room for him, and he didn't hit well against lefties, and obviously a super limited sample last year. But I want him to hit more against lefties because in the minor leagues, he wasn't a heavy platoon guy. Like he hit lefties pretty well, especially his last year in AAA. So I think if Malloy and Torque both make it, he doesn't. I think if any other combination happens, he probably does get more looks. He's been getting a lot more looks against them in spring and has a couple of hits against them in spring training.
Can you rate me out of 10 your temp check on Torque? Because the issue with Torque, it's very similar to Nolan Gorman, where the homer highlights are so sexy. Like anytime Torque or they're all in that same, the Dan Ugla tree. They're all in the Dan Ugla tree of like the home runs look gorgeous. And then there's like a 3 for 35 stretch in there where it's like, I'm going to jump off a bridge. Like, where are you out of 10 on Torque? Because I mean, he's smoking the shit out of the ball in spring.
Yeah, I'll be real with you. You're asking me at. You are asking me. This is a very awkward time in my life. it's like catching me in like 7th grade, like mid puberty, and it's just like, well, this is clearly ugly, but it's also not a finished product, you know. Like we'll see what happens, kind of thing.
Okay.
Look, man, if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago of my opinion of Spencer Torkelson, I would have told you I was completely out, legitimately. This whole winter, especially after they signed Glaber and moved Colt Keith to first, I was over it. Like, legitimately, I was like, okay, like, this is probably just behind us. And, like, Torkelson is just, going to start off in Toledo. We'll see if maybe he can make some adjustments there. But, like, it's probably over. And then it's not just the numbers, because we have seen time and time again plenty of people in spring ball that hit really well and then can't hit in the regular season, and plenty that do vice versa every single year, too. So, like, I don't put too much into spring training numbers, although his are fantastic. It is the fact that he has actually made changes to his mechanics, which we were told he like maybe was never going to do. His swing, the upper half is still very similar, but the lower half is very, very different. He has a stride now. Before he was a foot pivot guy on his front foot. He didn't take a step. He didn't do anything. It was just plant. And now he, more than just a toe tap, he has a whole like foot leaves the ground and then comes back down like a full stride kind of a thing. And his balance is totally different. That was a big complaint with his mechanics the first 2 years of his major league career, was that he didn't put his weight on his back foot. He just stood kind of like this weird, like straight up, like I don't know. The way his weight shifted was super weird and not very practical whatsoever. And now it's a lot better. So like, because there's actual tangible changes and he's crushing the piss out of the baseball, it's hard for me not to be like, well, fucking maybe. But I think that for now, if he makes the roster out of camp, I think that he is going to start off and just kind of be like, if a lefty is pitching, you're going to be our DH. And then if he flourishes in that role, you'll see playing time increased based on that. But like, he's not going to be like the primary first baseman, by May or anything like that. He still has a long road to go, and there's still a lot more I need to see out of him before I'm like fully back on board. But I'm certainly way more back on board than I was, before spring training.
And to give credence to what you talked about, I remember, back when I saw you in June, it was early June, and you were referencing a lot of that uncertainty that you're talking about now with Torkelson, where you're like, yeah, I don't know. Like, you've definitely framed it similar to what you did now. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to be out on him, but it may be. And I think the other part of it that confounds that is the moment the offseason started, giving Colt Keith a first baseman's glove when he had that contract, which I think, again, I just praised, I think, the Tigers for being good about like not caring about money talks and being like, we want guys that win. But Cole Keith happens to be a guy that money talks and he helps you win. So I think that definitely confounds the issue for sure. All that to say, Jace Young stocks, I am investing. I am very in at third base. When Vierling went down, I felt bad because I was like, that definitely hamstrings you guys in terms of center field depth. But I was like, this does kind of give Young like, hey, you're going to have a chance here. Like, show it to me. And I think sometimes that's just what a young guy needs. So,
and obviously,
no, go for it.
Obviously, the starting pitching is in a pretty good spot with, I mean, Scooble's like, it's disgusting how good he is.
Dude, fire me up on Casey Mize, though, man.
Mize looks awesome. Maeda's velocity is somehow like back up to where it should be. Like I don't know where it's been the last few times he's been out because I haven't been
awful.
Particular.
Oh, sorry. Last year it was awful. This spring it's been great. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I've been seeing he's like sitting 94-ish, which is way better.
That's a little, but yeah, like 92, 93. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously I like Job a lot. I like what I've seen from Mize this spring. Like the Tigers rotation could be pretty damn good, and having the best pitcher in baseball to anchor it is pretty nice.
Yeah, helps a lot.
Whoa!
I don't know if there's Skeens is great, but I don't think you can say he's the best pitcher in baseball yet.
Man, you know what? This will be maybe this year's a good litmus test for that because I think both of them will have the reins completely. There'll be no limitations on either one of them. You know what I mean? Like they're both.
Yeah, I think if they're healthy, they could go 200.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We are shaping up for maybe Scott. I feel like 1,000 years old, but dude, the like 200 plus pitcher might be back.
20 wins.
We may be getting back towards it. Like I really think that there is market value now is being demonstrated for guys that can go deep. Like we'll talk about my club, but like Quinn Matthews is a good example of like, yeah, man, if you can just go like 7-8 and you can strike out enough guys, like they're going to let you. And I'm excited that seems to be back on the menu in baseball. I hate the 5 and dive. I hate the 5 and dive.
There's value in it for sure. I think, I mean, you mentioned Mize. I don't think anyone, we just talked about Torek. I don't think anyone's changed my opinion of them more in spring than Casey Mize. I am buying all the stock. Like I'm completely back. He has looked exceptional, insanely dynamic. He's touching like 97, 98 with the fastball now, which we've never seen from him before.
100 like twice yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, well, the one was a faulty gun when it said 106 or whatever the fuck. But,
no, I think that was real, Scott. I think
that was real, obviously.
But yeah, he had the splitter has sat 90 all spring, and his slider was the best that I've ever seen out of it too. 88, 89. So if the stuff he's featuring in spring translates to the regular season. Legitimately, I am completely back on him. Job is going to be great. Yeah, man. Like I'm very, very happy with the rotation, and then inevitably when somebody gets hurt, you have a ton of talented starting pitchers waiting in the wing. Alex Cobb will be back at some point. Cater Montero, Kenta Maeda is probably not even going to make the rotation. You can throw him back out there. Like you have a lot of depth in that regard as well. And then the bullpen was so good last year. And they added Tommy Kahnle to it, which I like. So
I love Tommy Kahnle.
Yeah. It's
he's a hometown guy for me. He's
okay.
He's from like 20 minutes from my house.
Nice.
One of my friends caught him when he came back home because he works out in one of our like local travel ball teams facilities.
Oh, nice.
We can wait for Diego to get on the stream, Scott, and then he can dox Drew. Drew, that was a bit of a throwback. I didn't do it. Because Manning got sent down, right?
Matt Manning is not.
That motherfucker is not real.
Political answer coming.
It would not shock me if Matt Manning played his last game as a Detroit Tiger.
Wow. Okay. Because I was just curious because I know that I just don't. I know like you're ready to unleash Jackson Jobe. I would not be shocked personally if Maeda's an opener for Jobe at the start of the year to limit innings because they want Jobe to pitch in the playoffs.
Yeah, they might even just like he's got two options. Like they might just send him down like on opening day and just be like, hey, which I would hate. But yeah. I think that with how Maeda has looked, they have the flexibility to do that if they want to. Mm-hmm. So we'll see kind of how that plays out. But I'm really excited about the pitching bullpen as well. One of the best farm systems in baseball with a lot of good pitching and hitting prospects as well. I think really the question just comes down to how much will they hit, like legitimately. I mean, this is a team that's not going to give up. Yeah, not going to give up
top end hitting
a ton of runs.
Will their top end hitters stay healthy with Carey and Green? If Carey and Riley Green can stay on the field, this offense has a lot of upside.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's going to be huge. And then it's about the production from the supporting cast. Colt Keith wasn't very good his rookie year. Can he take a big step forward and learn a new position? Gleyber Torres, how much of an add or offensive bump are you going to get from his production? Jake Rogers had a terrible year. Dylan Dingler had a really bad year at the plate. What are you going to get out of Parker Meadows when he's healthy? First half Parker, second half Parker. There's a lot of questions like that have yet to be answered. And then, as you mentioned, what if Kerry Carpenter stays healthy? He's one of the better hitters in baseball, but he has yet to even come close to that so far in his major league career. And Riley Green's not too far behind him. So, I'm excited. I think it's a weird season where the ceiling is pretty high. But the floor, I think, is also really low. Like this team absolutely could go out there and win 74 games, and it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world to me. But they also could win 90. So,
yeah. That's the thing. That's my take on the AL this year. Is every contending team in the AL could be completely disrailed by one injury.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Like the Tigers, if Skubal goes down and is out for the season, the Tigers are fucked. If Bobby Witt goes down for the Royals, they're fucked. Like, if Jose Ramirez goes down for the Guardians, they're screwed. Like, all of these great AL teams, if one of their best players goes down, they could be completely out of the race, and it wouldn't surprise me.
I think I might be just more optimistic on the Tigers, man. I know you said 74 wins. I don't see that as a floor. I really don't.
I hope.
I'll sip the Kool-Aid on your behalf, but for me, there is something definitive about a team that very clearly, and this is I'm trying not to stray into a boomer speak or anything, but there is something to be said for a team that just locks the fuck in, and the Tigers are a team that lock the fuck in, and
it also helps.
But it's also a weird thing where they were 10 under 500 before that. And that's a majority of the season. They were a below 500 baseball team, and they locked in by doing pretty much Skubal and all bullpen games. That's also not how they're going to approach the strategy.
It's totally unsustainable different. To do that over a whole season.
Right. They're obviously not, right? We just talked about the rotation. So it's, I don't know, man. I'm optimistic, and I think that the days of for a long time there, the Tigers were a team that, because they were so young and had all these injuries that with their pillars, they were a team that would very frequently win 8 in a row, then lose 9 in a row, then win 7 in a row, then lose 10 in a row, then you know what I mean? They were super streaky like that. And I think the days of that are probably over, just because the pitching has made it so that, and the pitching lab and Fetter and everything have made it so that at a minimum, you're going to get a close ball game. It's just a matter of whether the offense can do enough to get it over the hump on a game-to-game basis.
And I
Scott,
think the last thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Drew.
The last thing I have to say about the Tigers, I think it also is very helpful to have one of the few managers in baseball who I think actually has a tangible effect on winning. I think there are only two or three guys who I think have, as a manager, have a real true impact on winning, and I think Hinch is definitely one of them.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole because I would talk for an hour, but if people knew how much he impacted inside the organization, I'm not trying to sound like a douchebag, but if the general public knew, was actually aware of exactly how much he did, he would win Manager of the Year every year. Legitimately, he is that impactful on, and has been since the second he was brought in as well. That's not a new thing. So, obviously you're not going to get a counter from me there. I agree.
You literally have no idea how impactful AJ Hinch is as a manager, dude. I know that's not. Scott, no, my last joke but serious point is when I talk about it's similar to what Drew talked about, right? About AJ Hinch and them coalescing. The gritty Tigs is real. All right. That's real and that's tangible to me, in the same way of you've got these guys that it's a really young core and it's a united front. And I think that when we talk about the floor of teams like that, you can win 83 games. I'll use my own ball club, right? You can win 83 games and it feels soggy. It feels like a death march. And you can win 83 games and it feels like a crisp lemonade on a summer's evening. And I think that for the Tigers, even if it is just 83 wins, it's going to be the latter. And it's because of that core. And it's because of what you both just talked about with Hinch. Speaking of a team that I hope has soggy days, the Kansas City Royals. I
have a lot of Royals and Cleveland. I think are the two most fascinating teams in this entire division, sans my own personal bias. The Royals are so weird to me because how many games they win last year? 86, 87?
Too many.
Something around that. Yeah.
And they had a 11 win player?
Yeah. Literally. 10.4, 10.5.
Right. So I know it's a slippery slope and you can't quite play the literal game of take him off the team. That means they're a 75 win team or whatever. But it is so wild to me. They're a team that I think, people are regression. I understand that they are a candidate for that for sure. And there's huge questions about the supporting cast. But in the same breath, if Bobby Witt Jr. plays a full season again, how bad can a team with an 11-WAR shortstop really be? They'll be around, dude. They're not going to be terrible. They're not going to bottom out and be a 95 loss team again. They might be a 75 win team, and the whole month of September they're not playing meaningful baseball. But as long as he stays healthy, he has single-handedly raised the floor of the organization because how you know what I mean? He's that valuable.
Yeah, and they have a really good rotation.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't think Seth Lugo is going to be a Cy Young candidate again, but golly, man. I mean,
Reagan's is unreal. Reagan's is the guy.
Reagan's is incredible. So, I have questions about their bullpen. I have questions about their offense outside of Witt. Getting Vinny back this year is obviously a huge addition, quote unquote, for that lineup. But yeah, man, they're a weird one to me too, where I could see them winning 74 or if they even get 500 ball club level production from the rest of the roster, they're going to win fucking 90.
So valid. And I understand that they're also a popular conversation for regression, blah, 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 and all of that. The point that I would like to make up, the point that I'd like to make, excuse me, about Bobby Witt specifically is just I don't think it's an unreasonable take to say that was a 100th percentile outcome.
Sure. I'm not saying he's going to put up 11 every year.
Right. So I guess my point is when I look at this,
he puts up 8. That's still the best player in the division.
My point though is that, but if he's an 8-WAR player, that's a difference in them making the playoffs and missing the playoffs.
Sure. Fair.
And so when we talk about regression, I'm not saying they're going to sit here and become a 78-win team. I just look at Bobby Witt and go, yeah, if he's a 7-WAR player, which is still like MVP caliber, 30-30, it's like Ellie De La Cruz with the Reds. Obviously I'll save that to not jump ship entirely, but like he has to be Superman. He has to be fucking Superman every single day for them to be good enough.
For them to be barely a wild card team, right?
Right. And like Brady Singer, I love.
I'm eating lunch, by the way. Sorry.
When I look at this, I look at the Royals lineup. I'm just like, I'm not inspired, man. I'm sorry. Do you think Jonathan India is bad? Do you think Jonathan India's hitting 15 home runs now that he doesn't play for the Reds? No, he's hitting like 8 or 9. Like he gets on base. He's a great. I get the acquisition from a leadoff standpoint. Yeah, absolutely. But Moneyball meme, he gets on base, but that doesn't change the fact that a lot of, half his home runs are about to turn into really long doubles or singles. Or flyouts. Right. I mean, their outfield's there's room in the outfield. I'd have to look at a spray chart, but
tough.
I don't know, dude. Also, like Salvi's 35. And when we talk about I know bat speed data is fairly new. And Scott, I know you can't we're doing the bit where it's like, oh, I finally bought low on a guy on the 8th year in a row of buying low, and he finally isn't.
I despise him, dude. And he's a great dude. Great.
Yeah, that's the worst part is that he's a nice dude.
Exactly. He is so likable, and it makes me hate him more as a player.
That's the problem is that if he was an asshole, it'd be so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I know bat data is relatively new, but they always tell you hey, 35 is the cliff, right? Where you're going to get diminishing returns year in and year out. It's his age 35 year, and it has to happen at some point. And I'm just going to gamble on a guy that caught for half his career or more, that it's going to be at age 35. But I mean, I look at the rest of this lineup, no one likes Hunter Renfroe. There's a reason he's on 3 teams every season. MJ Melendez, what's going to happen? Miguel Garcia, can he learn how to not hit a worm burner? Insert backyard baseball clip. That's all he hits the ball. Kyle Isabel is in center field every day. I get he's a good defender, but there's a reason Victor Scott isn't going to start for the Cardinals. Just because you're an elite defender and you hit lefty doesn't mean that you should be playing every day. And I just have so many questions. To me, you have 3.5 hitters and a rotation of what if Seth Lugo's magically elite again? What if Michael Walkup, a guy that's been hurt his entire career, even though I love him to death, doesn't get hurt again? What if Michael Lorenzen has enough in the tank? You start to say these things out loud, and it really adds up for me. Their bullpen is a lot of guys that are in theory good, but in practice aren't.
I don't like their bullpen.
I'm looking at you, Hunter Harvey. I'm looking at you, Carlos Estevez. These are guys that in theory are good baseball players, but in practice are not. And there's just so much here that I go, no, I don't like. And so I get that they're a popular regression candidate take because it's easy because of how much they fluctuated, but they just don't seem ready to me. The outfield is brutal. I like Miguel Garcia, but we've got enough plate appearances where I'm I don't know if you're going to figure it out, man. I don't know. And again, I'm sorry, Bobby. If Bobby Witt's a 7-WAR player, this team wins 82 games.
Yeah, no, I love the take because I hate the Royals. I think that's a fantastic counter to my whole point, though, which is, and I think that's super fair. One of the Lockdown Royals host, one of his hot takes was that Jack, Florida boy.
For who? Oh, Caglione.
Caglione, thank you.
I thought you meant the host of the
college.
podcast. I thought you meant the host of the podcast at first was named Jack and he's from Florida. I was like, I
hot,
don't know why we needed that information, but
his hot take was that Caglione is in left field by July for the Royals.
So let's break this down real quick. If anything, I'd put him in right because he's got the arm to play right field.
Yeah, sure. Corner outfield, whatever.
I think that's dog shit, respectfully. I think that's a horrendous take.
Well, no, but this is your point. Is the reason I bring it up is like their outfield isn't good.
No,
their field organizational depth is horrible.
And so if he wasn't saying it in terms of like this is good for his development. He was saying it in terms of like this outfield isn't good, and if he rakes in the minor leagues, that the organization has gone on record and said, if we think he's ready, we're calling him up, man. We're not effing around. And like, good luck with that.
Well, that's what I mean. It just take it from a Cardinals fan. Just because like you're trying to fix a problem by messing up somebody's development that you've made a significant investment in by doing that.
Shout out the Angels, man.
We'll get to them. Good Lord.
Don't do it with Christian Moore, dude. Please.
Seriously, he needs to be in Double-A. Put him in Double-A.
I love him.
But there's so many things with the Royals where it's just like last year was a 90th percentile outcome to 100th percentile outcome for them. And that's fine. But it's like you added Lorenzen and you went, that's the missing piece right there. Our SP5.
Right.
And when we get Chris Bubich off, and I'm a Noah Cameron guy anyway for the SP5 slot. I think Bubich should be in the bullpen because I think that would make your bullpen better. But there's just a number of things with me where I just look at this team and I go, okay, well, if that guy is only like a B-, and if that guy is only a B-, I'm not even saying they have to be bad. If they're just pretty good, it takes a win away. And I can't get behind it.
I think that's totally fair.
Which is why, and I'll make it beautiful transition time. I'll say the same thing about the Cleveland Guardians. It's part of why I have the Tigers winning the division. Spoiler. But
I have so much I could say about the Cleveland Guardians. The point that you made, and like not all of it bad either. Like this isn't like, I have so much shit to talk. Like genuinely from the bottom of my heart, as long as they have the resources they have pitching.
It's making Scott sick just thinking about what he's about to say.
As long as they have the resources on the pitching side of things and they have J-Ram, they'll be decent. Like they'll hang around. They'll be in that, give or take, I don't know,
84 to 91.
Right. Well, I was even going to go lower, but like, yeah, they'll be like around that low to mid 80s win total no matter what. The issue I have with Cleveland is that they desperately needed offense and got rid of it this year. This winter, they got rid of one of their pillars offensively. And like, they don't pay anybody outside of J-Ram, and they refuse to. So like, I guess I kind of understand like why
I low-key don't hate trading Naylor.
No, I'm the trade in a vacuum. I don't think is awful. I just think they went into the offseason going, we need to get better offensively. And like their starting pitching last year was terrible, but like they had a lot of injuries and like Tristan McKenzie completely like shit the bed and whatnot. Like they'll be a lot better in the starting pitching department than they were a year ago. But like they needed to improve offensively and actively lost offense instead. And it's just, and on top of that, you want to talk about, regression to the mean. There is no chance they have like 5 sub-2 ERA guys in their pen again. Like they're good. They'll be good. They will still have one of the best bullpens in baseball. But they had the best bullpen in baseball by like half an earned run or some ridiculous shit.
A very unsustainable margin.
Last year.
They had the best bullpen of the century last year.
Yeah, dude. Like that is not going to be replicable year over year. So, and like Clase was, Kerry Carpenter's son, as I like to call him, like shit the bed in October too. Like, I don't know, man.
Like, the same way. I'm a Yankee fan.
I have never seen a bigger cement mixer pitch. The moment it left his hand, Scott, I know that for you is much more stressful, but the moment that ball left his hand, I was like, oh, like to quote Major League, oh shit. Like the moment it came out of his hand, I'm like, that is being parked 470. There's no chance anything else happens to that ball. That was horrendous. It was a horrendous awesome pitch. It's funny you bring up trading Naylor, though. I want to interject briefly, though.
Yeah.
Kyle Manzardo is a hot talking point amongst my friend circle. Drew now knows. Talk to death about Kyle Manzardo. I do want to point out that Manzardo, I get small sample size. However, he is rocking a 216 WRC plus in spring, and they're giving him the chance to play against lefties. I'm intrigued. I didn't hate the Naylor trade. I get your point. They could have added more. I thought the immediate Horowitz flip was interesting, as opposed to actually holding him. But they could have for sure done more. But I thought getting rid of the Jimenez contract was smart.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish they'd. I guess my big overarching take is I wish they just held Spencer Horwitz. And I would have felt better about their offseason because Juan Brito does not move me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I played against one of the minor pieces in that trade in high school.
Who?
Nice.
Mike
Bovary or whatever? Is that the name?
Mike Kennedy. Michael Kennedy. He went from the Pirates to the Guardians in that trade.
Well, are there any two organizations that don't pay people more?
Fair point.
I mean, it's good for him because he's a left-handed pitcher and he's going from the Pirates who don't develop pitching that well to
not anymore.
The Guardians.
Yeah, they actually that's actually the only thing
they're not as good as the Guardians.
I refuse to believe giving 600 plate appearances to 39-year-old Carlos Santana. He's in the Salvador Perez bucket of cool dude that's really nice, and I've bought the dip for like 5 straight years. But it has to happen. At some point, it has to happen where it's like I'm actually not going to hit 20 home runs and drive in 70 runs. Like that has to happen.
Put up 13 OAA at first
and walk at a 80% rate or whatever the fuck.
I know this sounds crazy, but like I'm legit
his
gonna
first Gold
push
Glove at age 39.
When we're like 40, I'm legit gonna push the agenda that he should be a Veterans Committee guy, like a Veterans Committee Hall of Fame guy. I really am. To me, it is remarkable to come up as a catcher, transition, and he's just been a mercenary for the last decade of his career. And like you just look at WRC plus since he left Cleveland. 108, 138, 99 in 2020. I'm not counting it. 81 for the Royals. You thought he was done, right? No shot. Then he comes back and goes 102, 100,
right?
114. No. He was a 3-WAR player last year. What the fuck?
He won a Gold Glove at 38 at first base. And like actually earned a Gold Glove.
Yeah, he wasn't a negative defender for literally the first time in his career.
I know.
It is mind-boggling how he does this.
No, I just love Kyle Manzardo. He actually his family has a lot of ties to the Detroit area. Like he grew up a Tigers fan, and was a guy that like people heard about when he was kind of going through. He didn't grow up here, but still was a guy that people were aware of around here. And was heartbroken when he went to Cleveland, obviously because Cleveland. But I really like him a lot, and I think that it's tough because I hate being the like clickbait guy that's like, this is the X factor. And if this one player can just be good, then like this whole team dynamic changes. Like that doesn't really exist as much as, people say, but I really do think that Manzardo is probably the closest thing to that with Cleveland. It like just from a pure offensive standpoint, their offensive production changes dramatically if Manzardo can even come close to filling the void of what they lost this winter. Like Naylor had not a very good second half and like was dominant in the first half. Like he had a weird year, but like I really think that Manzardo's production is going to kind of determine a lot of what Cleveland is able to do offensively.
I think the same kind of goes for Noel, where like if he can cut down the strikeouts a little bit, I think he could be a big factor because he crushes left-handed pitching regardless. But if he can hit righties even a little bit, he'd be a much more valuable player for them.
For sure. No, absolutely. It's a great point. They got a few. It's Cleveland. Like that's like half their roster all the time. It's just
they just pull players out of thin air.
Right. It's like, okay, well, this dude could be like a solid 2.5 to 3 win player, and if that's the case, then they're going to be pretty damn good. But like, who knows, dude? Like they have for every guy that does that and that they have exceed expectations like that, they have plenty over the years that just fizzle out and do nothing. So
we should do a little 5-1. I'll rattle it off first here. 5. This is a tough one, man. Just a chock full of competitive teams. White Sox are in 5th, but I'm sticking with my hot take. Peyton, you weren't here for this. I will say the White Sox are in 5th, and they barely lose less than 100 games. Like I'm saying, like 63 wins. Like they're gonna go like 63 and 99. I think they're gonna have. You know what? I'll give a really specific hot take. I'm not going to name the player because 80% of the roster will be turned over at the trade deadline, I'm sure. But I will say they will walk off game 162 to not lose 100. Boom.
This is like that one kid on Instagram that was like
Nick Senzel will make the All-Star
Nick Senzel will
and tear his ACL in the All-Star game.
Don't take that comparison.
I'll say White Sox in 5th. I will say Twins in 4th.
Something like this.
I'll say Guardians 3rd. No, I'm going to go Royal. No, actually, scratch that. White Sox 5th, Royals 4th, Twins 3rd, Guardians 2nd, Tigers 1st. That's where I sit with that. I'm not just catering to the crowd here. For me, when it comes down to this division, it's going to be within a 3 to 4 game window, in my opinion, anyway, of like 1st to 3rd place. And I'm going to go for the team.
1st to 4th place.
Well, yeah, I could see it being like 89, 88, 87, and 86 wins.
Yeah, it could literally be 1st to 4th place.
But for me, I think I'm just going to back the team that very clearly to me has this, like, again, maybe it's a Cardinals fan and I believe in the devil magic adjacentness of gritty Tigs, but I don't know. One team that's got that like one goal, one mission. They seem to have that kind of hive mind mentality, and AJ Hinch is the best manager. So I'm going to take them. Stephen Vogt's not bad at his job either, but that playoff, he got undressed by AJ Hinch a little bit in that playoff series. Yeah.
All right, I'll go.
Can y'all hear me now?
We'll save.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Have you been able to hear me?
For last.
This is the first time we've heard you this entire time. Dude,
you're saying how handsome we all are?
Dude, so smooth.
Peyton's so cute, dude. I haven't talked to him in so long. He's
what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pay Benji out of pocket to do a Peyton fan cam edit.
Yeah,
can someone find Benji first?
I'll go in on that.
Let's find Benji.
Yeah,
we'll
make an investment.
I'll match whatever you pay him.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Drew, go ahead.
I'll go White Sox 5th, Twins 4th, Royals 3rd, Tigers 2nd, Guardians 1st.
Oh.
Yeah, so one of the weird things about the AL Central too is they haven't had a repeat champ in a long, long time. Especially if, I don't count the 2020 season. So technically Minnesota won in 19 and 20, but like I do not count that as a real baseball season. So like sans that, they haven't had a repeat champ since like 2016 or 17. So, I think that Cleveland being competitive but regressing is kind of inevitable. Kansas City, like, they can't afford to regress. So, like, if they regress at all, they're out of the picture. So I'm going to have White Sox at 5, Royals at 4. And then, like, after that is where it gets kind of weird for me. Like, I could see any combination of those three in the top 3. I could see all 3 of those last teams all making the playoffs. I could see only one making the playoffs. It's a really weird kind of dichotomy there for the rest. I'm going to go Guardians 3, Tigers 2, and I am going to have the Twins. And that's just winning the Central, and that's purely just basing on them actually being able to field their opening day roster for the whole season. So
I think that's fair. I think, you can project injury to a certain extent, but I think it's disingenuous to do I think you get very muddled when at a certain point you got to stand on your takes, and I think you get very muddled when you're like, oh, well, I'm going to project 60% playing time for 3 of the top 4 players.
You also got to, when you look at last year and you talk about like the Tigers and the run they went on, you got to have the same conversation with the Twins, but the exact opposite. They were a solidified playoff team, were one of the better records in the American League for almost the entire season, and then in the last 5 weeks were the worst team in baseball and completely had like a historic level collapse. So like,
I see them the same way I see the Mariners, where they just do not have dog. There's no dog in those teams, where they just anytime there's pressure on them, they just crumble completely.
I agree with that. I mean, that was the whole start of this conversation. That was my opinion of the Twins kind of.